welcome to Whitelight and The Beacon. I'm Jennifer Fallaw-Doering, The Beacon, and this is Candace, Whitelight. Whitelight.
How you doing?
We're here tonight just to talk to you, have a question and answer, and talk about whatever comes up. And I do see there are a handful of people that joined us, even though a very famous contributor is live, but I know you'll pick it up later, so that's okay. If you have questions for us today, go ahead and ask them. I'm going to be looking through the chat and asking your questions. Probably have to get a different pair of glasses. But so Candace Whitelight, what is going on? You got anything good? Any current events? Anything going on right now?
Well, it's been a couple of weeks, so I don't even know where to start. There's been a lot of stuff that has affected all of us, and that has to do with the Schumann. And so, you know, from what I observe, and frequency of the Earth is my center of gravity, and is that we're seeing a whole lot of disruption, major solar storms that are not particularly Earth facing, which is good. But they are bringing a lot of disharmonic frequencies in. And, you know, we have a tendency to feel that in our bodies. And I think it's creating some of what the symptoms are that people are getting, and some of the, you know, sort of mental agitation that we're experiencing. So, you know, these are seen in several of the graphs. And for the good news, I think that we see the Mother Earth is actually playing in with some pulses that are from the Earth itself, that are in a range that has to do with your heart chakra. So we should be feeling a little better here, but we have to be aware that part of this is all psychological and is being used against us, perhaps from organized psyops that are being taken place all over the planet. And this is where the disruption of our like social media comes into. And that is a train wreck right now. A lot of disruptions. You yourself had a problem last week, and you know, it's not rare. It's what's going on. They're resetting things, or they're twisting the dials. They're, you know, doing stuff that you can't see, you can't hear, but it does affect us, right?
Yeah. You know, that's so interesting because I'm not really affected by the phases of the moon, but my husband is. I'm like, people say, oh, there's going to be a full moon. I'm like, great, I'm in trouble for something. I don't know what's going to happen now. But like with me, it doesn't bother me at all. But I noticed that after I've had kind of a hard time, somebody will say, oh, there were solar flares. So for some reason, that affects me. It's the solar flares. I didn't even know that, and so that makes sense considering my weekend and the emotional state lately. That or hormones, either one. But solar storms, you know, and people say, well, they're not real and they don't exist, and I'm like, well, time and time again, I've seen a correlation between my emotional state or what's going on in my life, and then find out later there was a solar storm or a solar flare. So, I mean, why is it that has an effect on people?
Well, the thing about all of this, it has to do with frequency and modulation, which is what we talked about last time, which really is a form that comes in during the course of this plasma being released from the surface of the sun. So it is so energetic and so huge. If you look at a picture, the solar flare is like, you know, on a screen this size, is like this long, 6 inches or so. And our Earth is like the size of an eraser head. Okay, so these are massive eruptions, and they send out a pulse into the, you know, solar system that basically is going to be projected throughout the entire region of space. Now, whether it's directed to us is the difference between just a solar storm, something that comes up from what they call the coronal holes, or a coronal mass ejection, which is CMEs. And that is where the danger zone is, where it comes in with such incredible violence that it can literally take out your electrical or your internet. It can affect everything. So our emotions are much more finely tuned. And that is going to be the part of it that gets projected around the ionosphere, which is the envelope around the planet. And then, of course, is projected down, to the poles on both sides. And that's what creates the aurora borealis, which we have had 3 aurora borealis events in the last 2 months here in Montana, which is pretty phenomenal for our sake. It's beautiful pictures, but they've had enough that have actually all gone all the way down into practically Texas. So this is pretty phenomenal. This is something that's pretty powerful and is going to affect us because we are sensors. We are organisms that are very sensitive to everything that's going on around us. And, there's this other thing that's on our plate that everybody has been dealing with, which is, the side of the deep state, which is they're sending out attacks. And to the point of,
Thank you.
Kind of getting into a situation that is, really off-putting. I mean, you cannot imagine a life form that is here on this planet that has as much connection to the earth and then to the cosmos as we do. As God said, it's as above, so below, and we're in between. So we get all of it.
Candace, Whitelight, explaining my life to me over the last, 4 or 5 days. So the psychic attacks and the solar storms. I'm like, well, I should have just called you.
You should. Just call me next time. I'll tell you what's going
on. Yeah, but that was real apparent here in the house. Well, you got a house full of empaths and mediums, and I'm sure they're very sensitive to the energies. And I'm just cleansing everybody and working hard with all this stuff lately. So yeah, and it really shows me also, aside from the cosmic events, that the dark side's really trying to dig its heels into whatever it can hang on to right now, because they're getting cast out. They're losing ground, and so they're gonna, it's shields up. Say your prayers, do your cleansing, do your little whatever it is you do over there to make sure that your energy's clean in the house. Avoid negative people.
There's a good one.
What we do is we play happy thoughts. Okay, we start getting really, and I'm over here this weekend, and I'm like, okay, happy thoughts. Everybody's coming at me with something, But so when you play happy thoughts, I like to call it that because it's so simple, you can remember it. We just start to look around and think of everything that we're thankful for, everything that is. What do I have to be happy about right now?
Yes.
Well, the computer's working, and that's really nice. We haven't had an interruption. We got people here. I'm here with Candace, having a good time, doing whatever we want to do. And so that's kind of what you do. And pretty soon, what you're doing actually is you're pulling in that high vibrational energy into your body. And so then pretty soon, sometimes it's so silly that you start to laugh. The importance of laughter is something I want to do a show on.
That is the truth. Yeah.
And so you're pulling this high vibrational energy into yourself. It's just an easy little trick, and pretty soon you start to feel better. You start to feel lighter. You start to and it's not just imagination. And every time you get a negative thought, because what these dark ones will do is they'll project something into your mind. Oh, hey, remember that event where, that he said this and then everything was okay. But what if he really meant that? And then they get you going, right? And if they get you going, then you've taken the bait. You're on the hook. So what you do is say, oh, no, everything's fine. Thanks.
Well,
And
that's a good point to talk about. And I'll just interject here because we call that in the business that I worked in for many years, psychic counseling, which is called doubt programs. And a doubt program is something that I can define in a fairly easy way that we can help other people to avoid because it's about energy. And remember, we were talking about moving energy through us and stuff. One of the things that is very visual to me, and we'll see if this works out, because this screen is reversed. It's really sort of off-putting, but
I know.
the thing about when you are capable of moving your own energy and you can receive information or you can reject it, right? Because you've got a field around you that basically is your ethereal field. It's your Taurus field. And you can make the choice whether that will affect you or not. Action reaction is not the way to work. It's about having discernment, which is really a reaction that a person can have within themselves walking through life. And no matter what happens to you, you can say, I had that thought, or I was like talking about that with somebody else the other day. These are the synergies that we're living in right now. That is where you are doing your own program. Literally, you're running your program in your mind right now for what you're going to do for the rest of the day. Right. Everybody can sit here and say, well, I'm paying attention to this. I'm doing this on the computer, or I'm listening to this person talk. But in the background, we've got a whole series of synapses in our brains that are working. And these are things that are, they call it the autonomic nervous system for a reason, because it's autonomic, it's automatic. Our heart beats, our breath comes in, our blood flows, it's like things that are happening. We don't have to think about it. All right. So what is it that our mind does is it can segregate itself into different brainwave lengths. And when we're in brainwave length that is lower in resonance, it's called flow state. That's where we're open to things having been implanted in our minds. And then we just can walk through life and all of a sudden it is. Okay. So this is positive energy. It's the circular energy that is a part of the, what you call clockwise energy. Okay, so that's positive. You can create that for yourself. All right. So, and I'll tell you a short story.
Okay.
It's really happens to me a lot. Okay, so yesterday I took a trip into town and I went to a wonderful Amish store that I like to go to. They serve sandwiches. I sat out and saw the view of the beautiful Mission Mountains. And I was thinking when I was driving out here, there was a woman that I'd met there back during the census in 2020. And I've seen her there a couple times since then at the same store, right? So I'm thinking to myself, God, it'd be great to run into her. I'd like to update because she was having a lot of problems up where she was with a presence that was there. And I did the research on it. And it was because a bunch of people had moved in from California and they started doing satanic rituals. Perfect. I mean, this is really happening, right? So when in Montana, yeah. And this has to do very specifically, and I hope I don't offend anybody. The Satanists right now are following around the Buddhists. They've been doing this for quite a while. And I've done research on this for 25 years. So I do know that what happened in the beginning with the Buddhists coming into our country was very positive. They taught meditation, they taught walking the walk, they taught, all the things about karma, everything that we know about, what it is that the inner workings of the Eastern philosophy. Now, a lot of people were interested in it. That's what was the center core of the New Age movement, right? Now, the reason I talk about it like this is because I kind of skirted with all that. That was my day, okay? But I never really fully engaged in it because God kept taking me by the shoulders and sort of like going like, that's not where you're supposed to be here. Let's go over here, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And that was a very real sort of accomplishment that I made personally, to be able to say, I can determine who I follow and who I don't follow. So, what's the big problem right now? It's about social media, right? Who are you following? I mean, I can just ask that generally. You know, and all of a sudden you start hearing bad things about this person, and it's like everything falls apart in your life because they're not telling me the truth anymore. It's the nature of human beings to want to follow a a person of stature, a guru. Okay. Now, that particular mode of life is very familiar to people that are Buddhist, right? They spend their whole time in a meditative state where they're actually just doing the bidding or doing the will of their, you know, leader, of Buddha, because that's a huge teaching for Buddhism. Just like our teaching in the Bible as Christians is to follow Jesus Christ. So, but there's a war raging about this right now, about Christianity in general and religion in general. So,
Oh, I bet there is. Yeah, they want, any religion probably started out, not any, but any
yeah.
God centered religion probably
Mhm.
started out clean. It's the first thing they infiltrate. They want to put confusion, they want to put doubt in there. And you were talking about choices and our emotions and who we choose to follow and what we choose to think. We have been taught since the beginning to look to another to teach us something or to tell
Right.
us what to do. And so they've created a society of people that are looking and for someone to tell you what to do, and that is by design. Okay, because now they'll look to your leaders because they're smart and you're not, and they'll tell you
Yeah.
what to do, so you don't have to think at all. I was like,
So,
and then a few of us are over there saying,
wait a
I
second.
don't think that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
what happens? It's funny because it's like what I'm hearing. I can be hearing what I want to hear, but from a lot of things that you tell me, it matches up with the things that I've come across on my
Yeah.
own to teach in my own way
Hmm.
about, like, so the energies and the choice. So
Yeah.
like what I teach is that the first step in psychic protection is to control your thoughts, to not let them into your mind, because that's the first place they're going to go. So if you're out and when you go off and you're talking about religion, you go off and you're seeking guidance, and you're like, I want to be more enlightened, I want to get closer to God, I want to. Well, that sounds like fun. So then they infiltrate your mind, like like, oh well, oh, we've got way too many Christians out there right now, let's put some fear and doubt into that. What you're going to end up in your reality energetically is the way that a soul creates as a piece of God is the positive thoughts, is imagination. Ooh, imagination, like they gave it a bad rap so that you won't do it. Okay,
Mm.
so imagination, visualizing, having positive thoughts. What if I did this? Yeah, that'd be good. And then so imagination, you're creating, and then this negative thought comes in. Well, what if it doesn't happen? And then all this crap goes like this all the time in your mind, negative, positive. You get something in the middle. Is what you've created
Yeah.
in your reality. Um, so the best place to resist and cast evil out or whatever they're trying to do to you to mess up your life is in your thoughts. And so you take that negative thought and you turn it around and have the opposite positive thought, whether you truly believe it at that moment or not. It's not, it's all about creating. So when you spend your time in positive thought, the negative thoughts are down here. And so what are you going to get? Something more positive coming into your life. You're going to you draw to you that which you project. project. And if you walk around
That's a huge
positive,
yeah.
I've been saying that since the beginning. You draw to you that which you project. It's one
and
of the
let me
first
finish
things I
my
ever
story, because this is a good time to sum it up.
All
Because
right.
so on my way into town, here I am just driving along the road. I'm thinking about this lady. And then I just, started thinking about other stuff, right? So I got there, I went in, did my shopping, had my lunch, and I decided I looked at my list of things and I said, I need to get some potatoes, right? So I went back in the store and I went into the produce section, which it's a big room that's cold everywhere. It's kind of neat, old fashioned. And so I found my potatoes. I got some lemons, a couple things. So I turn around, I go out, and as I'm going to go out, she walks in,
Really?
and I turned around, I went, is that Linda? I mean, it's like amazing.
Yeah.
She's there. And so I started asking her the questions and saying the thoughts that I was having. I was worried about her and about her situation and what's the update. People been walking on your yard again, coming in at midnight. I mean, all these weird things happen. And so I said to her, okay, and I gave her my new card and I said, you got to call me for sure, because I've got to come out and I want to do some blessings on her house. She needs help with that. This isn't something that we should feel like we have to do it all ourselves, right? So I'm wrapping it up. I'm going to leave, and she holds up and she says, I just am here just by happenstance because something didn't work out. A place that was a garage sale wasn't open, and she came down there to get potatoes, and I hold up my hand and I go like,
weird.
I got the potatoes too. That's how it works. You don't have to plant other thoughts. You just have to plant what it is that you're interested in doing, and then just wait. I swear to God, I have taught so many people this, and I don't swear to God very often, but I swear under God that this is his way to make us be at the right place at the right time, and to get the information that we need to work on. Because we can have random thoughts and try to do positive, negative stuff, but really it's just all about just planting a thought. It's just like you plant a seed, and it may not happen as quickly as it happened to me yesterday, but nonetheless, if you are patient, you can find stuff. Like if you lose things, I had an occasion just where I lost a key to my safe, and I've got to get in it to get some paperwork. And I had to just go like, okay, now where could I have left it? I see the bottom of a cup. So I've got cups of things all over the place, pencils and erasers and, all sorts of stuff in cups. So I'm going through them on the sixth one, and I've got one more. It's in my shop, and I come over. Sure enough, I pull it out, and there are those keys right in the bottom. It's not magic, folks. This is the way our minds are capable of integrating in this physical space. So that's the end of my story.
Right. That's a good story. I mean, sometimes I've had situations like that, and I'm like,
yeah.
Now, did they come because I was thinking of them, or did I think of them because I'm psychic and I knew they were coming? I mean, is this an important meeting? It's like it's always interesting, and the quote coincidences that happen. So it's really, and I really think that this kind of conversation is what needs to be had for truthers, because you can't really be on the road to truth and not find your way back to the ultimate truth, which is God. And but we need to understand and think about a little more, not just how we act, but how we think.
Yeah. Well, how we use our brains, because they have incredible capacity. Somebody told me once that even somebody like Einstein only used 30% of his brain capacity. And they actually extracted his brain and studied it after he died. I mean, a lot of people don't know this, but they had his little brain in a a jar with, alcohol in it, and they kept it for a long time, and they poked and prodded at it, and they did find that he had more capacity than the average person uses.
Really?
So it, yes, genius is a matter of how you use your brain. And, in essence, you can be tested for your IQ, whatever. I was tested when I was in, I think, fifth grade, and they ended up putting me in all honors classes after that because I was like, way up there. So that was nice because I didn't have to do the, daily rote homework shit. They let us sit around and talk about things. Talk about a cool educational experience. It's like, so I learned to use my mind in a way that was counterintuitive to the educational process, which is about rote memory. So part of this all has to do with what our initial experience was when we were children, and as far as how it was that we were dealt with in an educational setting, which is, well, I tell you, that is going to come totally apart in the future. And there's going to be an entirely new process that will come into being, that has a lot more to do with homeschool, with field trips, with actual hands-on experience. And that's what I hope to be a part of, because I do geology, and all my kids, the start for their education was the Montessori system, which is all about that you train a kid to integrate with life by giving them things that are integrated in proportion to things like mathematics, and you're doing things like teaching them to read at 2 or 3 years old, with just having them trace letters on a block that has a sandpaper C on it, and they do a C and they say C, it's brilliant. And Maria Montessori got a hold of that particular learning ability she was from France, obviously. And it was a movement that was back in the 1920s. And they built on that, and I was fortunate to have kids at the age when there was schools where they could go and do it. Another one that is very important is called the Waldorf system, and that has artistic bend. So you're working with kids' natural artistic ability, not in an art class setting, but in a daily life setting. Where they walk in the morning and they start to be creative. You're planning your day according to what it is that is of interest to you. You're taking natural aptitude and you're building on it, rather than sitting down and repeating the lesson and then going home and writing the same thing. That is a horrid way to teach somebody to be a human being. And that's my assessment.
I ended up through the whole thing, but my parents got divorced, kind of had a hard time. I guess it was freshman year. I had to make up for that. I ended up graduating with B. But I was too social and I didn't care. And I just did. I would get into class and I would sit and I would listen. And if you tell me a story, I've got it. You want to do something on the board that's interesting and you show me a graph, cool. But if you give me a book and had me read it, boring. So I would scan it. I'd scan the book. There's the answer. There's the answer. That's the answer. That's the answer. And then I would remember the answers. And I really didn't study.
You were a good test taker.
Yes. I usually got A's on the test.
Always got
if I went to class and listened. It was, and what I remembered when I was taking the test was the instructor at the front of the room. And if it was, and I was very interested in, I was pissed off about the way the history books were written, because I'm like, they really should write this more like fiction. It should be more, exciting.
Well, it is fiction. I mean, so much of it.
This is so boring. My God, numbers, dates, and numbers, and names, and I was just like, can you just tell me what really happened?
Mm-hmm.
But I would do it. But science was, and English, creative writing, and choir. uh, I was always interested in those kind of things, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but it's funny, I come from a long line of people that just figure things out.
Yeah.
They're all entrepreneurs. Everybody had their own business, and then they say, oh, go to college and conform and do all this stuff and become something, doctor, lawyer, teacher, whatever. And I'm like, yeah, that's boring too. So I studied business, but then within that business, I was handed a failing business by my parents and said, this is one of our failing business, go fix it. I'm like, all right, like
Challenge. Yeah. Yeah.
freedom. So I did stuff like that, but it's interesting because I remember hearing so much talk about like what were they called? The children that are coming in the last few decades. I can't move.
Oh yeah,
Lighting
the
is weird.
indigo children, right?
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden you got this huge lockdown and crunch on the minds of the young ones that are in school right now. Really?
Yeah.
Why is that? My
It's true.
children are easily bored. But if you talk to them and you say, hey, how do you think I could figure this out? They will figure it out. They will counsel you. They're highly intelligent. Faith Marie was so brain smart, not so much physical, but I had to teach her to read when she was 3 years old because we'd drive around. She'd get so upset she couldn't read the street signs. And then she'd say, Mom, or she'd just go, and I go, what, baby? And she'd say, remember when I was the mommy and you were the baby? No. Remember when I was the mommy and you were the baby and grandma was there? And I'm like, no, tell me all about it. And like, and then she'd like click over to the ABCs or something, or little toddler babble. And it's like, I've seen a lot of exceptional children.
Amazing.
Be, dumbed down, numbed, and maybe I think these, they know a lot more than they're telling, and there's a lot of reasons why. Okay, these ones coming in, yeah, they're exceptional, right? We're gonna have to really dumb those ones down, or they're gonna rise up against us. So,
it's also clear through to college, right? I mean, I went to a college that was here in Montana, and it was way different than any education I'd had before because it was in a place that was more like what I call provincial. All right. The thing about our culture is it's very stratified, and this is part of what I get back to the Buddhists because and the Hindus, they have a very stratified culture. You're born into it. You have to keep your place. You don't kind of rise above it. That's the great thing about America. We have a lot here that is much more entrepreneurial, where we have the ability to create something that we love, and make money from it. I mean, I'm one of those examples where I dreamed a career. It happened to me, and then I ended up doing it for 25 years. I mean, I was in film and TV school back in the 80s and the late 70s, and I got my degree in film and TV from Montana State University. And then I went back to Seattle, and I was able to, within 2 years of being graduated, starting to get hired as a freelancer. And I came in the back door. I've told so many people this story, and it really does play into your kids, everybody's kids, is that they need to be given a way to find a profession that is not typical. It's not going to be, you're not going to read it in a book. You're not going to have an instructor tell it to you, but you'll find it through your own desire to apply information. Now, this is the real nuts and bolts of how I got where I am now, is to be able to teach this, is to say that I was taught the technical ability of reading light, okay, reading light and knowing how a script works and knowing what it took in order to make people look good in front of a camera, of of giving a look to something that would look just correct, except for it wouldn't overcome what the product was that they were handling. I mean, all of this is kind of just esoteric to most people, but it is really the basis of every job. You got to figure out what it is that's done. You've got to technically know what's going on. And then you have to be in a situation where you're allowed to use your own state of mind, your own creativity, right? So I got into it and I got good at it, and I took every opportunity. In fact, I used to say, and here's another key to the kingdom, everyone. Yes. And then you figure out how you're going to do it. If you don't know, God will allow you to walk right to it, because he wants every one of you to succeed. And once
Candace
you get
reads my mind and is my soul sister or something. Because everything you're saying today, I just told people this, like over the weekend, and today. But the choices,
it's my life.
That's,
yeah.
it is. And how wonderful and how amazing would our society be?
Yeah.
If we were allowed and it wasn't so hard money-wise. Yep. Oh, you can't. There's so many things I wanted to do. First, I wanted to be a pianist because I wrote my own songs. When I was 6 years old, they gave me a piano. I started playing it.
Yep.
And then I wanted to be a journalist. And they said, oh, that's too hard. You can't do that. You're not going to make money out of that. It's too much competition. I'm like, all right. Then I wanted to be a singer. I wanted to be a psychologist. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to be a singer because I wanted a voice. I wanted to be a journalist because I wanted to find the truth and I wanted to tell the story. Yeah. I wanted to be a psychologist because I wanted to help people move forward in a positive direction. And damn it, sometimes you get everything you want. It doesn't look like what it's supposed to look like, but everything kind of came full circle, and I'm doing it now. But it only happened when I decided I'm not holding myself back anymore, and I'm not gonna just be everything that everybody wants me to be. I'm gonna be me now, and this is where we're going. And it's that conscious decision to make that. I'm a Taurus, all right. I'm very responsible. I got plan A, B, and C, and D if you need it, and I got everything in my purse that anyone will ever need at any point in time.
I've employed the same principle. I always said, when I went on set, and it didn't matter if I was doing props or costumes or makeup or whatever, I always had several levels. If number one failed, I had, plan B and right in line. And I just did that like out of, being able to pull a rabbit out of my hat. And, it worked out. I mean, so many times where I just had exactly the right thing and I could put my hand on it, Yeah, that's another really good thing.
Years ago, my niece plays the piano like me. She's autistic, and she plays the piano like me, and always wants to play the piano when she comes over. And she goes, well, is this okay? Does this sound okay? I said, oh, and it just came out of my body. Like I felt it, like always let your soul sing. And it's like, if we were allowed in this society to do that, to really be who we are inside, without the worry about money. And we need to make a little money, but it's everyone's forced to take these positions and to be these things that they hate. And hopefully, and I really feel that we're moving in a direction where someday when they'll have classes to pinpoint someone's talents, like, that was freaking amazing. Let's, okay, you get to go over 2 days a week over to the creative arts department, or you get to go over to the, whatever you want to do, that, and so let's see where you're going to take this, and let's encourage that. My grandfather used to say, find one thing that down deep inside that you do really, really well, and do that. And year after year, you'll become amazing at it, and there's no way you won't make enough money to survive.
I kind of, it brings to mind something that happened back in, you know, Europe in the medieval days, is where people had apprentices. And I think that that
Yeah.
kind of situation would actually be a good thing to do. Like, we all do want a leader, somebody that is got some mastery over a trade, and that actually is a way to honor the system that we should be looking at and believing in, which is that our elders have something that is worthwhile. Um, and this is really the painful part of what we're going through right now, is that they're trying to really turn off that particular aspect of life where we have the elders that come forward, like your mother, who probably very bright woman and everything, but they have messed with our brains because of this medical crap. And for the end game in all of this, it plays into their hands in a very kind of bad way, because what do? We stop listening to people and we start listening to what's going on, over the airwaves. And this is really the AI, the what we call the transhumanism, and the technocracy has really unfortunately embedded itself to the point that a lot of people can't even unplug. And with these devices, I think that's what we're going to have to learn to do without in the future, and start to rely on our local and our elders and the people that can guide us in terms of our children's future, which I always thought would be a great idea. Maybe I can just throw this out there, is that the best place for a preschool would be at in a environment where there were older folks, like a care center or something. They have, all sorts of capacity at those places, and they're all run by the state and paid a lot of money. So why don't we just put the two together and let them, be kind of, if we have to do that, which is, I don't think is the exact right thing to do. I'd rather have a kid raised by their own family, right? So, but it's just another idea to integrate into our very being a sort of ancient and a native heritage, which was that the elders were, respected, and that they were the ones that actually, they brought the kids to for at major times in their life. And that really was how they were able to raise a culture up in terms of its going forward in life. And it doesn't have anything to do with technology. It has to do with the cohesive unit that has just been cast to the wind by this, phenomena that's happened all over the world now, which has to do with this, social media. You learn everything that you know online. I don't know. Somehow that just doesn't
Oh, that's
make
so
sense.
easily manipulated, and
It
you know, you
is.
don't know who to trust anymore. And they have inserted such an overabundance of fear in everyone from, in the last few years, especially. People are afraid to move.
Yeah.
They're looking for, they're afraid to think, you
Yeah.
know. And then you've got a lot of people that, you know, that have like shut-in syndrome because they got so used to being home,
Yeah.
and now they're antisocial and families are broken up and everything. And I'm not going to go along with that, but I think it would be a wonderful idea. But
Mhm.
that's the way that they used to teach everybody. You'd listen to your elders, you'd listen to this. I used to sit and listen to my grandfather tell me stories for long periods of time, and everybody'd
Yes.
scatter. Or when Papa sit down and be like, "Well, let me tell you about," poop, everybody's gone. I'm like, "Yeah, tell me about that." And like,
Yeah.
because I
That's
knew,
yeah.
I've always look, if I'm going to get a dentist, if I'm going to get a doctor, if I'm going to get somebody, I'm like, I want the old guy, right?
That's
I want the
boom.
guy that's done this a million
Oh,
times. That's who I
yeah.
want.
Yeah.
And because I went to a dentist once and I had babies and we didn't have dental insurance and I had like a little bump on the side of my gum and I'm like, what the hell is that? And I went in there, I had like very little money, okay? And he goes, why have you let this go? I'm like, do you see the spit up on my shirt? I mean, I don't even know who I am anymore, okay?
That's true. Yeah.
I barely sleep, and he's like, do you have insurance? And I said, no. And he goes,
We still do this for you,
I
huh?
pull that thing right out. He goes, but if you have insurance, I have to give you antibiotics and I have to send you home and I have to wait 2 weeks and then I can pull it out and charge you a bunch of money. He said, I'll pull that thing out right now for $200. $200. I'm like, let's do it. And so pulls it out like abscess and all. He goes, see, it's fine. I'm like, we need more people like you. We really, we really do. Just rip it right out,
That's
man.
scary.
And
yeah. I like
so-
that because animals, it's the same thing in the veterinary profession, which before I got into film school, I worked in the veterinary animal husbandry trade. And I learned a lot about that and worked with one of the old school vets. And to this day, I remember what he, talked to me about stuff. And he worked with large animals, with horses. And I've had horses over the years now. And it's just that kind of great moment when you can solve something so simply, and without all of the technical woo-ha-ha, kind of out to lunch antibiotic bullshit, because we really do have the ability to not only heal our animals and our kids, but also ourselves. And that's, I think, what we're together here for, is really to give people the key to really be able to go within and to find their own resonance, to discover what it is about them that is special. What do you have? What do you talk about when you just walk through a cafe or you're waiting in line at the supermarket? And please, guys, don't go to the self-service one unless you just absolutely have to do it, because part of the interaction of everything in life should be done with a human. This whole movement towards, going into the robotics and the, insto service, and, it's killing us. And that's on every level, right?
yeah, first of all, I never buy, a few enough items to go to the self-service. But when I do, I screwed up somehow, and there's always a human that comes by to help me. It's like, why do I even try? I'm going to go in there. I don't want to do that. I was going to throw it on there. I want you to ring it up and put it in the bag. Okay. And then I'm going to go. Kind of old fashioned, but I love the idea of having those that are willing, because some older people, they're just like done with kids. They're like, you know what? No, too loud, too much noise. But there are some, and on a volunteer basis, you could bring in to the elementary schools to teach them things, but if they would stop being so rigid about what you can say and what you can teach and what you can do. I mean, I was tutoring at the schools because, they're like, you're the author mom. And I'm like, yeah. They're like, well, how would you like to tutor these kids with phonics, and everything else? I said, well, yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah, there you go.
Then they gave me all the crap work, like like the crosswalk in the middle of winter and stuff like that. But it was what I noticed that kindergarten was the hardest. It was the hardest because you have to, I'm like, okay, when we're going to draw the A like this. No. You start on this side and you go up and you down. Then you come back up. And I'm like, it's the same A. It is the same A. It is. But no. You don't step out of line. And don't ask any questions either, because I'm always the chick in the back of the room with Candace, in any situation. And when they were tutoring me to teach the kindergartners, everything had to be so exact on everything you do, just from drawing letters. And we were discussing phonics and stuff. And I asked a question someday that was like, well, what if we did it this way? And everybody just stared at me like I lost my mind. And I'm like, we're talking about kindergarten, right? Like, is that not okay?
Let's get loose. Let's get loose.
Ridiculous. It was ridiculous. Anyway, we're going to get to your questions in a minute. I know Candace and I we do this. So, but I really feel like, these are the conversations we need to have, because the truther movement is huge, and those are going to be like the leaders in society as we move forward. The voice in the living room, the person at work, whatever it is, the grandparent, in my children's book, which you can't get right now, I got to send it to you personally. I don't really want to do that very much. I have to redo the whole thing. Anyway, but the grandma in there is called the wise one. And she'll come out with like the famous one-liners, and wisdom that my parents and grandparents always did that. I'd go on and on and on, and they'd come out with something like, my mom told me the story that her dad told her when she went, "Oh, Dad, I'm so fat, and I'm not smart enough, and I'm this and I'm that, and I don't know what to do, and and I'm all these negative things." He says, "Compared to what? And according to who?" And she told me, she told me that I have the rest of my life. The rest of my life, I've been hearing that. And I stop every so often when I start doing that. And I'm thinking, yeah, who makes the mold? Who decides?
I don't think it's been good.
Yeah. So anyway, we need to start thinking like
this. It's well, is there questions? Does somebody have a question? Or
oh yeah, we got all kinds of questions. I'm gonna put them up on the screen and see what we got here.
Yeah.
Can't see them very well. Let me see. Well, just people saying that they're ready for this. There we go. There's Nancy's here. What else did you say, Nancy? Oh, same thing. Oh, for the dynamic duo.
Oh, Christine. Hi there. How you doing, love?
Okay. Let's see. I don't know if I have. You guys post some questions if you want to ask us anything, and we'll go off for about an hour on it. Just kidding.
Go ahead and read. Can you read what she has to say? Because I can't. It's too small on this.
It just says. I will read them. It just says. Face red, heart shape. Face heart shape. I think she was. I don't know what that is. Okay. Greetings from Memphis. Let's see, Joe made it. What's that? Okay. Diana. Diana's got a question. Oh, that's a hard question. Okay, the cases. So let me see. Will Carly get her girls, Freya and Australia? Damn, we need glasses, Candace. We need to go. Let me put the ugly glasses on so that I can read that. Last time I was there, I've had glasses since I was 6, and oh, there goes the light. Last time I was at the glasses side, they're like, well, we just want to put this little bifocal on the bottom. I'm like, you don't tell somebody who's, my age that. Thank you. You're just making me feel bad. 50-50 custody.
Oh, she's asking you a question about what something
I think she
about
will
her
get
family.
Them back,
yeah,
but I don't know about 50-50 custody in the beginning. Okay. What do we got here? Were the Apollo missions really true, or were the Russians right that we could not survive the radiation exposure? What do you think?
That's
Candace?
off the wall. I have a tendency to say that the Apollo was real. I know I've heard a lot of stuff about the fake moon landing, and then of course the thing about space in terms of a gravity and an anti-gravity, I think they have probably nipped around the edges of playing with that. I've seen a couple things where there is gravity up on the space station. It's like, wait a second, I mean, if you're holding stuff, it's supposed to float out of your hand, right? But the effect of gravity is pretty much encapsulated within the ionosphere, which is really the reason we have an ionosphere is because of gravity. It holds it close to the Earth, right? So basically, there's once you get out of the ionosphere, there isn't that availability of the magnetics, which is really what it is. It's all about the Earth in terms of being able to spin the torus field, because that's electromagnetic, and that particular energy, it's very polar in terms of the way that it works. And as an example, in terms of your heart is actually 5,000 times more magnetic than it is electric. So that what we are seeing in terms of a resonance is not only within our brains, which is mostly electric. It's electrical circuitry that runs down through our medians, which are all over our body, which carries the nerves, right? So, but our heart is capable of setting itself in a very low resonance, 2.5 hertz. And so that is an area that can be dangerous to people that have lost their electronic connection within their heart, which is why they put pacemakers into people. And I have a dear friend that ended up with a pacemaker, and one of the things they told her is to keep away magnets, because electronics and magnets, they work together, but when they don't work together, there is disharmony. And that's the function of our entire system, really, is working within a harmonic resonance rather than a disharmonic resonance. So there's a lot to know about that. It's a hard question to answer, but then again, I don't think they could have pulled off Apollo in a CGI situation when that all went down. And go see the movie, and they did a good job with it. And for my interest in terms of space, what will come in the future will be the ability that we have as humans to pass through space and time without a vehicle. And that's where we're going to be going. And that happens to be the separation that we can take. And near-death experiences are kind of describe it, with our soul or our consciousness actually being able to function outside of our bodies. So that's a very long topic, but I think that is kind of how I would
I think
answer
that's
that.
a good topic for us. I'm all aboard on that one. I'm getting psychically that Gabriel says we actually went to the moon 4 times. They stopped going to the moon because 27 countries built bases on the dark side of the moon, and they weren't good ones. Okay. So publicly, there was also another reason, safety-wise, to stay the heck out of there.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so here we go. I love watching the Schumann resonance graphs. I kind of froze when I saw it blacked out a while back.
Well, that's a very good topic that I can talk about. We have seen that happen, been doing this for over 4 years now. It has happened over long periods of time. It's also happened with very short blips where it just goes out. Now, it can be just a technical difficulty because the collation on the graphs are done in Tomsk, Russia, and they have a huge computer bank that handles all the raw data that comes in, and then they send it through the various capacities that they have, and they turn it into a resonance graph, and then the amplitudes, which is power, the frequency, which has to do with hertz rates of the actual wave form, and then of course there's Q factors, which have a lot to do with the quality of the signal and then how it affects our bodies. So when we see all of those graphs go dark, amazingly enough, a lot of times the other graphs are not dark. And this is where I've come up with this kind of theory, and I've had it bona fide by people that actually went to the university and and have some knowledge base in terms of how it works. But the raw data is collected all over the planet. So it's got reporting stations that are on all continents, and there are 224 of them total. They all have different capacities. Okay, so they send all that information on a moment-to-moment basis through their gathering instrumentation, then through the internet, which goes then to Tomsk, Russia. Now, that particular information, the raw data, is critical frequencies, the actual active heights of the ionosphere, a one called the electromagnetic background, and then there's another one that has to do with a collation of the critical frequencies without the what they call sporadic incidences. So now, if those are all good, but the collated ones are down, guess what that means? That means that their university there has taken the internet down for a little while. No big deal, right? Takes them, they're probably resetting stuff. They have to do that just like you do with your machine every so often, right? So I don't worry about it. I have called some of the incidences time link portals. Now, the only reason I do that is because we'll get, and I'll put them up on Frequency of the Earth because this is really fun to do. We've actually seen a blackout that has information within it. And sometimes if you put it on its side, it looks like something. This is like a, whoa. And a lot of these things I actually have named. And I think that's the fun part of doing this, is that we do have situations where the sun has sent out a CME, and it took apart some of the collating stations, and they basically takes them a while to get back online. All right, so that's an incident that was done by the sun. We also have the gamma rays that are coming into this planet that come from what we call the galactic core, which is the center of the Milky Way. And those pulses actually come in strong enough to create really magnificent waveforms, which are way up there in terms of terahertz of agitation. So that also is capable, just like it is with the CMEs that come in from the sun, to take out the stations that are getting, that high of frequency coming in. So I don't know if that helps, but there is a lot of folks.
This question goes along with what you're saying. This next question.
Yeah.
Could there be a reason for all the confusion and vertigo that everybody is experiencing?
Yes, that is a very, very real thing, with the frequency of the Earth actually going up. And this is where we as biological organisms, we have evolved over time, and it is even consistent with theology in terms of Christianity about the actual formation of the Earth and what it was that we were living in prior to the time of Noah as opposed to the time after Noah. And this has to do with compression. And you have several factors there that allowed people to live much longer lives. And like Noah lived 840 years or something.
See, I always wondered that. Like, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but I think curious. I always wondered about that. I was like, well, maybe they counted a day or a year in a shorter cycle, and so maybe it was really like 100 years, but they had like 8 years in one of our years. I didn't.
Well, this is what is really the interesting part of finding out about this theory not too long ago, is that the area that we live in is got what's called atmospheres of pressure. Okay, so, and that has to do with gravity, right? When you're on the surface of the Earth, you're feeling a certain compression rate, right? And the atmospheres of pressure, then they get less and less as you go up. And then they disappear totally. And that's where gravity stops affecting you, which is why the thing with, going into outer space where you're supposed to be in anti-gravity. So, but this is a dynamic process. This is something that has changed over time. So now we can look back and look at the Bible and say it was created in 7 days or in 6 days, and on the seventh day we rested. But that might be not just 6 days. It might be 60,000 days. It might be 600,000 days, right? Because it has to do with the creation of something that is by magnitude in terms of what it is that we are as little people. We look like ants running around on the surface, as opposed to, like, say, the dinosaurs that were gigantic. I mean, how did these things exist in such huge size?
Well, then there's people saying, oh, the dinosaurs didn't really exist. They've all planted, it's like, no, there are actual archaeologists that have dug things up, and it's not just on, you've got archaeology students that go out, if you go out to Arizona and start looking in the layers of rock, and you go out and you see that parts of our country were underwater, and I found we dug into our own land and found all kinds of like dead cows and horses and all kinds of things, Indian heads, all kinds of stuff that's buried in the ground, and it's not all just oh well they put out a it's it's like, okay, internet age people actually went out and did digs and things, and it's not all just videos being put out or books that are being written or whatever. There's people that will validate, I had an actual experience, and I found this, or I found, we found a Clydesdale horseshoe. Huge.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, because we had like this in the winter, this little river at San Diego, we had this pasture, and we had a creek, okay? And the creek would run. We go down there, pan for gold stuff. And then one day I just decided to start digging. I found all kinds of stuff in there. I was just like, that had washed down over the years from up in the hills. I think they get a hold of the books, they get a hold of the videos, and they make you believe that, a certain scenario that is useful to them at the current time.
Yeah.
But I fully believe that dinosaurs existed. I mean,
well, there's actual Göbekli Tepe is one of those sites that they just started. Really, they dug it up. It had been purposefully buried at one point. And there are actual, symbolic representations of dinosaurs on those stones. I mean, it looks like dinosaurs, along with animals that we know contemporarily. So,
well, Gabriel just said, and it's more recent than you think.
That's right.
Really?
So, we're going to have to do some serious, reestablishment of our timelines, with the next coming generation. We again are going through this frequency that is going up. And as it goes up, we're having to retune ourselves, because we each have our own inherent frequency modulation, which is really down to the 6th decimal. That's why we respond to certain people, because we're closer to them in frequency. So with this going up from 7.83, which it has been cataloged as for quite a while, and now we're seeing it up above 8, and even up almost to 9 hertz. That's F1. That's our frequency modulation in the first harmonic. We are feeling out of balance. I mean, this has to do with the stabilization in your eardrums to your eustachian tubes. Now, I'm going to bring out something a lot of people can do every day, okay? If you start experiencing this lightheadedness, it's just like if you're going up in an aircraft. You know how you get up and your ears start to plug up? Well, how do you unplug your ears when you do that? You yawn, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so We know how that works. And why does it happen? Is because as you go up, the pressure on you changes.
Mhm.
So it's the same theory. So just be okay with that. If you feel this, a lot of people feel hums and they feel harmonics in their ears and stuff like that. Just pull on them. Take your little lobe there and go and
I
squish it
do that.
around. Most people know how to do that. So I'm just asking you to apply it in a situation that has to do with those very things that that person asks the questions about, which is that you're going to feel this in your mind, because your brain is always interpreting your signals. So you got to understand that your way of interpreting might be different than others, right?
Right.
So it's
and
our senses.
that
Yeah.
lines up with what I learned that from the angels, that
Mhm.
your brain works so fast. We're always, so people are like, oh, energies, there's no energies, but you're interpreting energies every moment of every day, because your energy comes into your brain. So the energy comes in, you have a thought, your brain translates the energy of whoever's speaking or whatever you're seeing through your human filter.
Yep.
And puts it into language. So you have a thought in your head, and then we will put it into a thought in our own language and then speak. So that's the explanation. The reason I found that is like I wanted to know why the answer was coming before I finished the question. I'm like, well, how do you know what I'm not going to ask if I don't ask the question, if I don't finish the question? And it's because the way that I was communicating is kind of like telepathy. So
there's a very good point.
They are, they're using just strictly telepathy. They're transferring. I'm asking a question. It goes zoom to them. They're so good. Comes right back to me with an answer. But then I take that answer and I've got to translate that energy. You're reading that energy and you're translating it into whatever is acceptable to you, what is not acceptable to you, what is real, what is not real, and then turning it into a language, having a thought, speaking the thought, and then responding. So that's what's going on. But when you're communicating with telepathy, which they're probably much quicker at it, you're not, there's some steps cut out. You're not really, it's quicker. Okay, you're not going to translate that into language and then speak it and then say it. It's kind of like back and forth, back and forth. It's a knowing. And when people say, I just had an inner knowing, that's what's going on. So every moment of every day, we are taking in the energy of whatever is traveling by us, through us, seen by us, heard by us, and we are translating that according to our language that we know, the programming, what is acceptable and not acceptable that we've been taught. So it's funny because you want to change a generation. Stop telling them everything is bad. You know what I mean? Like the kids. Okay.
Well, redirectioning that's a very, very good way to start down this road, which is really, it's about our interpretation, right? It's not necessarily about scientific facts. So what we have in our minds is that it's a free form interpretation. It's emotion. It's pure emotion. It doesn't have to do with the filter that we've been taught to use words to explain things. And I want to answer Christine's question because it's really good. She says, are the earthquakes the effects of the change of the resonances? And there's a couple people out there that do really extensive earthquake analysis, but my opinion is very much in line with what most geologists think, is that because the Earth is a dynamic, growing thing, okay, we have to get used to this because it used to be a much smaller planet. It's actually putting on mass. So when you have that kind of dynamic, moving grid, if you will, you're going to get movement that isn't just slow and gradual and doing it kind of like a life form. Um, you're going to get dramatic shifts, and those shifts are in points of weaknesses. So you're going to look at fault lines, and you're also going to look at the changes that are going on in terms of our electromagnetic field, which is another thing we could open up about the pole shift, which it's moving right now. And eventually, instead of being north south, it's going to be somewhere over near the equator. And then on the other side, not equal, but in enough of a change to really make a huge shift go on. And this is also what we're working with in terms of the precessional shift. And this happens every 12,000 to 24,900 years. So we're right in the middle of it, folks. It's the age of Aquarius. It's upon us. And throughout our known history, there has been catastrophic events. And a lot of them were, the precursors for it were earthquakes. So these are the physical indicators that we have of something that is happening actually spiritually. So they go together.
James Pruitt says, saw the other day in World War II, had a study with interference of the radios due to sunspots found the position of Saturn and Jupiter caused it increase in electromagnetic waves, which affected our brains.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know. We get a full moon, it affects my
yeah.
husband's brain. So,
well, the thing is that we do the solar system that we are in, which is a very, very small part of the galactic, circular spiral, is undergoing the thing which they have defined as being an orc, which is really, it's a temporal place within our connection to the core. And it's because the spiral is actually moving constantly, as well as our social solar system and all the planets. So when we get like they call them in astrology, a lot of times that are connections between the planets that are, because their alignment is such, it's always from our basic view of the solar system. It doesn't necessarily look the same if you're on the other side of the sun. So these particular conjunctions, they call them, are happening right now. And it is the same as what was happening during or right after World War II that created a lot of anomalies within the radio field, not only from the planets, but also from what they call outer space. And some of this is coming in through another phenomena that is being, actually, it's happening right now, that's on the constellation Orion. And it has to do with a nova. And there's a lot of folks that are saying, Ben Davidson with Suspicious Observers, that our sun is going to go through a nova phase, and that is going to release a tremendous amount of gamma radiation. And that is what we need to be worried about, if we're going to be worried about anything, is that is a possibility of happening, he says, within the next 50 years. So those are going to be events that we have to prepare ourselves for, that have happened in the past, by the way. Entire cultures went underground for hundreds of years to escape the quality of the wave form that was coming in and hitting the planet, to the point that things could not exist as they had prior to that. And I think that if you go into the geological record, And if you visit places like in Turkey, where there's tremendous underground caves that are all carved out, and they found stores of wheat and honey that is still good, And this was stuff that happened, 24,000 years ago. I mean, we're talking before we even thought mankind was coming out of the caves.
Interesting
So,
side note. Okay. Interesting side note. People ask me crazy questions and then I go find out. What I
yeah.
found out about Bigfoot, you know how they're all over the place? Well, they're not living in the trees or whatever. The reason you can't find them is there's always a 3-foot cut hole in the ground covered by some kind of brush that they jump down into, and they make colonies in certain areas like ants, okay? And they live down in there. All right. They come out to get whatever they need, and then if they hear something, swoop, there's always a hole they just pop down into, right? And that they had come here, if I can remember correctly, it was a long time ago, that they had come here the time of the dinosaurs, that and of course I could be totally wrong, but this is cool, that their planet was another species was taking over their planet, but it was a species that was, nice enough to try and capture them and put them here. Okay. And so they're like, oh, we'll just take them because they're stupid, and we'll put them on this other planet, and then we'll take over their planet. So they were dropped off here during the time of the dinosaurs, and they went down underground. And then over time, you've got, the Yeti, we've got them up here in Idaho. They have them in different regions. You got them down in the South. And the reason that they have been seen in all these different places, and because depending on the climate when they come out and the temperature of underneath the ground and everything, that's why they look kind of different. Okay. But they all live like that. So that's interesting that you say that certain times in history this has been severe and they've had to go underground. I assume that they dropped the Bigfoot off here and they're like, giant lizards, let's go underground. Or maybe they just always live like that. But that's an interesting concept that I connected to that crazy story that I did some research on, just psychically. But let's move on here because we're running long and Mama's getting tired. All right. Jen and Candace. Donna, my lovely wife of 51 years, is home and recovering from open heart surgery. She's experiencing anxiety and trouble sleeping. Any thoughts or words of encouragement? Yes, hang on. You're going to live on, Donna. You got many years. This is a thing. We had to get it done. We had to get it taken care of. But it's done now. Okay? It's done. It's what she's afraid of is all of a sudden she's going to die.
Talk to your heart like it was your best friend. I mean, your heart is a part of you. That's the problem with medical science. It says, oh, it's your heart. It's a problem. We got to go fix it. If you take this to heart, do what you know what to do, which is to put your hand right over it and just say, God above, help me to understand what it is that my heart is going through, and to please give it rest. Right. Because hearts are they're very hardworking critters,
Yeah, they never stop.
And what we did when we talked last is we talked about the process of right before you go to sleep, where you tense your body and then you release, and you start with your feet and you massage your feet. So let's go one up. I don't want to leap all the way to the heart, because what this all has to do with, it has to do with you in your mind connecting up with everything that is in your body. And it has to do with not only your blood system, but your nerve system, your muscle system, your skeletal system. So you work your way up from the feet when you're massaging them, and the next place is going to be your ankles, and then your calves, and you're going to tell that how much you appreciate how well they work. Don't forget anything. Just massage right up there. You'll get to your knees. You work both sides of the knees. And you're going to say, man, that just is the best knee ever. Those are good knees. And that's
also, yeah, you just want to make a conscious decision.
Yeah.
And this really helps you put aside the excessive fear of the situation, that you are helpless and oh my God, what if it's minutes away? What if all of a sudden? No.
Yeah.
Just say, listen, I'm not going anywhere. All right. I'm staying. And from what I'm getting, you're staying. You got plenty of time. So you're just gonna have to rest. You got to get through this. It's something that had to be done, something that needed to be taken care of. It was caught, and it's a good thing. And you're just gonna have to. You will recover, and you will be okay. So, yeah, do what Candace says,
and do green and pink. I don't have a pink stone right here, unfortunately. I've got some nice. This is a nice color. This is kind of like a peachy color. This is selenite that comes in a pink form.
Really?
And
I always have white selenite.
Yeah, there's white and pink and gray and all sorts of things. This one's kind of a peachy pink. Okay, so this is really good stuff. You can put it right next to your body. You can use it as a massage stone, you know. I mean, it's really good to concentrate on color that resonates with the heart. And there's not enough of that in the world right now, is that kind of understanding of how color, along with thought process of positivity in life. And look at green. Green is all around you. It's springtime. Get some flowers, put them in your room. I mean, we're really at a point in time where we've got to touch things. We've got to come in contact with them, not just with what's on the computer screen. So that's a pretty nice piece.
Absolutely, it is. I love selenite. It was the first crystal I ever got. It was given to me. Most of the crystals were given to me until I started buying my own.
Yeah.
But I don't really use them. I used to, but the selenite crystal, I call it my angel crystal, and it used to be perfect until we got Max, and he was a puppy, and he put some teeth marks in it. But I never knew a lot about crystals, but I've just they're like a battery, I think, to me. And I just put the energy that I want in it to help me do whatever I need to do. So if this is supposed to help me connect, or if it's supposed to help me heal, I ask God to put that energy in there.
Yeah,
but you're going to be okay, Donna.
Clear selenite, and it's wonderful because it has the ability to move light, and I don't think I can do that with my phone anyway, but it moves light through it. And so what it does, it can be a connector for things, and it can also be a protector. So it depends on which way you kind of point it. It's like fiber optics, and it carries a really nice resonance. So yeah, agree with that one.
And Donna, go ahead and email me, or Dennis, email me her picture. I'll get her on a bi-weekly healing just to make sure, just so she feels a little better, and I'll just get in there and zap the heck out of it, see what I can do.
Get a cat. Cats
all right, let's go with the regular. What's going on with Diane Feinstein? Is she still alive? Oh, there's my light again. Don't move.
What do you say about that?
Let me see. See if I can find her.
My cat says she's still alive. He says I purr in a good purr rate too for heart things. Healing cat. This is Norman. Voss Paz.
I do not agree with the cat. I don't agree with the cat either, and it was recent. So I don't
she's
know
actually
if we're watching
dead?
old footage or that's somebody in a suit, but she looks pretty bad. And
yeah. Well, it could be doubles. We got doubles of everybody else, don't we? I mean,
she was taken away, and what? put in a cell. Oh, you guys are gonna like this. She's taken away and put in a cell and had a heart attack because she was freaked out so bad. So I don't really think we got a lot of justice there, but that's what I'm getting right now. Well, anyway, guys, I am exhausted. I've been going since the moment I woke up at 6:30 this morning, and I'm ready to go make some dinner. So
time for dinner. So thank you, everyone. I hope we got a few questions done, and if there's anything else next week, we'll be back, and hopefully we'll have something interesting to say.
I really want to talk about the ley lines because I want to learn from you what they really are, and then I want to share my experience. We'll see if we'll do that one next week. But there's lots of things that we could talk about always. But I had a personal experience in investigating a haunted home and found out that it wasn't the home that was haunted. It was the location. It was something that was arcing up into the house, and spirits were jumping off of it. And now I think I also know why vortexes exist. And so I want to see what you know
that's
about
one of my specialities. I'm a dowser. I can do dowsing, and a lot of it has to do with the Hartman lines, which are everywhere, which need to be. I mean, I am working on it full time, even just in the city that I live in.
Well, I don't know if what I saw is the same thing as the ley lines, because with ley lines, I think they're pretty straight. These were not. These were like nature.
They can be bent. Yeah, they are definitely.
They kind of went and if they hit a certain kind of rock, they go off in a different direction, and it was weird. Okay, but that was real.
There's both of them that exist. I mean, as far as technically, we have ways to determine what they are, and they have actual meters, that they take on the ghost, busters' houses. That is, and parapsychic phenomena. You get things jumping off the walls and stuff like that, and knocking. We're all in this together. We need to know, so we'll work on that. Yeah.
All right. Well, I want to thank you all for joining us. We will be back. Wait a minute. No, we won't. No, we won't be back next Monday, because that is.
Is it a holiday already?
It is, and I have it off.
Oh yeah, that's right. Is it Memorial Day? I'll be dying. Okay.
Maybe we'll run in. Let's see. Looks like I might have time Tuesday night. I'll see what Candace special. Schedule is like. Maybe we'll do it Wednesday, the 31st. We'll see. But I want to thank you all for joining us, and God bless you all. Think about your thoughts, positive thoughts, play happy thoughts, and think about your energies, what you're putting out there, and what you're allowing in.
It's really true.
It's your choice.
It's fun. Thanks.
All right.
Come and visit me, MontanaGeologyTourist.com.
Yes. And you can go to JenniferFallaw.com. We have special going on right now. Yeah. I'm doing a free healing donation special. So if you donate $100, join me on Telegram at Philosophy on Telegram. I'm going to be posting, if I remember, tonight or tomorrow. I asked anybody that that needs a free healing, like if somebody that's sick, maybe not everybody okay, but like this is for people or pets. And so if you donate $100 in the love button at JenniferFallaw.com, we put a free healing in the pot for somebody in need. You get 2 healing gift certificates for yourself or anybody else that you want, and you have to email me after that. So win-win-win. Cool. Everybody gets something, and we're doing that again. So go over there. I also have a bunch of readings on sale. JenniferFallaw.com. I wonder if I have you know what? I need somebody to do all this for me. But then I'd just be ordering them around. Do this now. I used to have a ticker anyway.
Well, I gotta say one more thing. I've got a plug for a film that is now going to come out. It's called Sound of Freedom. A new company has been able to purchase it, and its release day is July 4th. So you can go to the site, Sound of Freedom, and purchase your tickets locally, and it'll come up with a theater that's local. And we need to do this because there's already a group of people that are trying to suppress this knowledge, and that is a point of contention that we're living right now, where this needs to get out. And it's about child trafficking and using children for very, very bad things. And there's been that Jim Caviezel was on Bannon 3 days ago, and on 107 Presentations, I've put it up. It's Firebrand. He is, absolutely an incredible man, an incredible actor. We need to support that process as well. So thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. All right, guys, that's going to do it for us. Hope you enjoy your evening, and you will come back to listen to us again. Have a great night. Bye.
Blessings.